Good morning. Just getting on here on Tuesday morning, the 20th of October, 9 o'clock. A little bit late, I think, not much, for Yoga Flow. So let me know if you can hear me. Good morning. I'm going to turn this out. Is that okay? So take your time. Get comfortable. If you're at home, I don't plan on using a strap, but if you want one, you can grab one and have it handy in case you want to stretch during class. If anybody can hear me out there, I'd appreciate a heads up that you're okay for sound. And if not, I'll just keep on going and hope. So take your time. Grab blankets if you want to sit up on a blanket. If it feels better to be up higher, if it's better for your hips to stretch your legs out, or grab some blocks if you want. Put them underneath to support you so that your hips feel really released. You don't feel like you're gripping in your hips when you're sitting. And then just shift around a little bit. Let yourself just get really even between your sitting bones. Lengthen up through the top of your head. And start to enjoy now feeling your breath coming in and going out through your nose. So just imagine, since we're wearing masks, coming into the alternate nostril breath where we block the flow with our hands, our fingers and thumbs is not so doable. But see if you can imagine letting yourself feel like you're inhaling primarily through the right side of your nose and then exhaling through the left side and then inhaling through the left side and exhaling through the right side. So you switch sides when you exhale. And it's really just focusing on the idea of these alternate nostril breaths. And then very easily now, just imagine you're breathing in and out through both sides of your nose equally at the same time. And then we'll let our hands now come out beside us, fingertips lightly touching the ground. From here, let's inhale just our right arm all the way out and up overhead. And then lengthen up through the fingertips here. We're going to come over into side stretch. So letting your left elbow bend a little bit, giving yourself just a little more stretch through that right side of the body. And now as you exhale, turn to look down at the floor. Let the right arm come down. Hand just comes down, maybe even all the way to touch the floor. That depends on your shoulder, how it feels there. And then on your next inhale, open back into that side stretch, coming to face forward again. And then we'll rise on back up. And we're going to switch and inhale the other arm all the way out and up overhead. Again, bending the elbow here of that supporting arm, letting yourself breathe into that side you're stretching. Good. One more inhale. And on the exhale, turn to look down. And again, let that top arm just start to lower. It depends on your shoulder. Where do you want to go? Let your hand go as low as you want. And then on your next inhale, coming back into opening to the front, coming into that side stretch. And then we'll release to come on back up to the top. And let's inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse. Inhale the hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, opening the arms on back out and down. And let's stretch our legs out here. Let yourself remember what leg you had in front. And flex your feet here. See if you can flex so much that your heels come off the floor. Maybe, maybe not. And then bring your heels down and start to press into the balls of the feet. Like you have a strap around the balls of the feet. Pull your toes back, but push into the balls of the feet. And then go ahead and point the toes. So you come all the way into adding the toes. And now draw just the toes back. Keep pointing, going into the balls of the feet with your foot, with your pressure there. And then flex in again to the whole foot. Let's inhale here. And on the exhale, twist towards our left, bringing yourself on around into an easy twist. Feel your right sitting bone drawing down. Lengthen up through the crown of your head. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come on back around through center and go in the other direction. Lengthening up, lengthen the back of your neck and your throat. One more inhale. And let your exhale bring you on back around into center again. Walk your hands back a little bit. Now you can come flat onto your hands or stay on your fingertips. And go ahead and draw the chest forward. Let your chest open here. Looking to wherever feels good for your neck. Maybe more forward. Maybe you want to look up a little bit. Maybe you don't. It depends on how your neck feels. Good, and then we'll come all the way on back up, and let's switch our leg that was in front, going to cross back to cross-legged. If you were, keep your legs long if you need to, right? And then from here, just move a little bit forward and back with your breath. Let your exhales bring you forward, and your inhales bring you back up at your own timing. So the length of your breath is up to you. If you can, focus on letting the breaths get a little bit longer, a little bit deeper. And see if you can find those little spaces, those little pauses between the breaths. At the end of your inhales, that little pause before you exhale. At the end of your exhales, that little pause before you inhale. Which means you actually briefly stop moving, right? And the next time you end up upright, let yourself stay there. We'll release our hands on back down beside us, and we'll inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. And bring your chin down a little bit towards your chest. Release your head forward. And then slide your hands over to the right and let your left ear rotate over towards your left shoulder. So you come into the side of the neck stretch. And then we'll come back into center and we'll go the other way. Letting the other ear, right ear, come towards your right shoulder. And then we'll release and come on back into center again. And then slowly bring your gaze on back up where you're looking forward, seated mountain. Let yourself feel your hands there together and feel the feet in the floor. Whatever part of your feet are touching the floor, press down gently into your feet. And then we'll go ahead and release our hands on down. Shake out a little bit. Move through your wrists a little bit. We're going to come around towards our hands and knees. So you know if you don't want to be on your knees, don't be. Remember, if your wrists bother you, fists are fine. Takes out that wrist crease. Another thing you can do is you can come down to your forearms to do cat-cow, so you get out of your wrists. Or you can come onto blocks on your forearms if you don't want to be that low, right? So that's up to you. You can stay hands and knees, or you can let yourself get out of your hands if you need to, out of the wrists. And let's start to exhale our way up into cat pose, letting ourselves release, dropping the tailbone down. And on the inhale, send the tailbone back and up, move back through to your cow. So letting yourself just flow through the back now with your breath. Staying in cat or cow if you choose for a couple of breaths without moving or continuously flowing through. Good. Finish the one you're on. So we'll come on back to a more neutral spine here. And then we'll send our right foot back behind us on the floor. Curl the toes under. Press into the heel. Let yourself wake up the back of the leg here now. Good. And then we'll switch and go to the other leg. So stretching that left leg back. Engage the belly a little bit. Good. And we'll come back again to the right leg back. Keep the toes on the floor still. Press into that heel. And then float your leg up and let the leg come out to the side so that it comes on foot onto the floor out beside you here. Now, how high you bring the foot up. It might be toes are in line with your fingertips, or it might be lower. Foot is fully on the floor, so you're trying to get all four corners of the foot into the floor. And there you have a little bit of release into the inner thigh. So if you want to shift your hips back, you might even change or get a little more. Depends on you. Take your time. Good. And then we'll bring that leg on back behind us again. Bring the knee in, and we're going to switch legs. Left foot comes back behind you on the floor again. Engage the belly a little bit. Rise the leg up, and then bring the foot onto the floor again beside your mat there. The foot can be as high up as in line with your hands, or it can be lower. Toes are facing forward, so you're attempting to get your foot parallel to the long edge of your mat. And then just be mindful. Let yourself feel the inner thigh there. If it feels good to shift your hips back a little bit, do. That's up to you. Good. And then we'll bring that foot on back again. Bring the knee on in, and let's shift back towards pose of a child. Getting out of our hands and wrists for a second here. Now, you can stay forward on your forearms a little bit, or you can shift your hips back. Let your arms be soft. Breathe into your low back. Imagine your heart is melting down a little more towards the ground. Good. And then we'll come on back up. We're going to bring our left foot forward. Now, you might want to grab your blocks. We're going to leave the right knee down. Bring the left foot forward. And then shift our hips as far forward as feels good to you to come into opening through the front of that right hip there. So pressing into the top of the right foot. Let yourself take your time. Really releasing into the front of that hip. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to bring that left knee back and just step the right foot forward. And again, as you decide, when you start to shift how far you want to go, feel the top of the left toes pressing into the mat so that you get quite a bit of engagement there. So you're engaged as you're stretching in the front of that left hip. Good. And then we're going to bring the right knee on back, and we're going to step the left foot forward. This time we'll curl our right toes under and lift up into lunge. So take your time. Get your feet set. Once you feel pretty good, straighten that front knee out for a second. Lift the left toes up. Make sure you're not rolling to the outside of that left foot. And then go ahead and bend your left knee. Find your full lunge. Your hands can be any height you like, on the blocks, on the floor. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Good. We're going to switch and go to the other leg. So coming to that right foot forward, get yourself set up in your lunge there in the length that feels good. Straighten that front knee out here and lift the right toes up off the floor. And again, you might want to look at your right foot, make sure you're not rolling. Feel the four corners of the foot, the arches lifting up. Go ahead and let the toes release down. And then we'll bend into that front knee, finding our full lunge. So again, press those feet gently away from each other, coming up into the hips. Nice. And then from here, we'll step forward and come on into standing forward bend. So take your time, whatever support you need to have your back be okay in your forward bend. That might mean using blocks. It might mean putting your elbows above your knees. Or it might mean you want to go ahead and release your hands, let your arms hang, or put your hands down towards the ground. Just be easy. Remember, you don't want to lock your knees. So feel that a little bit of give in the knees. Sit bones right over the heels. Let the weight of your torso just gradually help the backs of the legs to open up more deeply. Watching your breaths now, in and out. And as we let our hands come on back up to our hips, let's bend our knees and rise up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. So coming into mountain pose here, shift if you need to. Look at your feet if it helps you feel more stable there to get really even between your feet. Bringing your gaze on forward and out. Really feel that sense of the tailbone dropping down towards between your heels. And just enjoy. Imagine for a second that you're smiling, even if you're not physically smiling, which is hard to tell, obviously, with our masks on. But just imagine that you're smiling. Feeling that uplift just from the idea of a smile coming to your face. And then we'll unfold our arms right on down beside us and inhale both arms all the way out and up overhead. And on the exhale, bend the knees as you come forward into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale help you find a nice flat back wherever you like your hands to be, shins or on the blocks or the floor. Really lengthen back through your tailbone, reach out through the top of the head. And we'll step the right foot back and come into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. So ease your way into dog. If you need to walk right away, walk. If it feels better to bend both your knees, go right ahead. Elbows gently hugging inward, reaching back through your tailbone. Think of the back of your head being in line with your spine if you can. So try not to lift your chin up and shorten the back of the neck. Instead, you're finding that length. Next inhale is going to bring us on out to plank. Nice and strong, engage your belly. And we'll lower down. So you can put your knees down first if you need to. Elbows right by the ribs. And then from here, let's come onto our forearms into a Sphinx pose. Elbows pretty close to under the shoulders. They can be down more towards your waist or up more towards the front of the mat. Bring your gaze between your hands or maybe a little forward, but take your time. And see if you can. Think about if you feel the tops of the feet into the floor, but try not to tense up the buttocks. Feel a lift in the low belly. It's like a release in the back. And then we'll bring ourselves all the way back down. We're going to come on back into down dog. Whether you come through a half or a full push-up, totally up to you. Elbows hug inward. And we'll bring the right foot forward from here to come into lunge. And you know you are welcome to put your left knee down to get forward into that lunge. And then we'll come on back into our standing forward bend. Full deep breaths. And you know if you like to hold your elbows, you can. You can use support. See if you can let your breaths become a little bit longer and deeper. Letting your inhales and exhales even out a little bit. And then we'll bring our hands on up to our hips, bend our knees, press into our feet and rise up. Inhaling the arms up overhead. And on the exhale, bringing our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's reverse the arms. Inhale the hands right up through the midline. On the exhale, open the arms as we fold forward. Let your inhale help you find a nice long back. And we'll step the left foot back to come into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Spread those fingers nice and wide. Reach back equally through your sitting bones. And let your next inhale bring you on out to that plank, nice and strong. We're going to lower down again, so if you'd rather put your knees down first, do. Elbows right by the ribs. Now let's come into a little cobra. Don't use your hands. Think about just floating up. Let your hands make little fists and bring them in kind of towards the front of your shoulders. And let yourself just be there. Couple of breaths. And then go ahead and release the hands on down to the floor, but just lightly press into the hands, maybe rising up a little higher. And then we'll come all the way on back down. We're going to make our way back into down dog, whether you come through hands and knees, a full or a half push-up. And we'll bring the right foot forward to come into lunge. And then we'll come all the way back into standing forward bend. Full deep breaths. If you're able to bring your hands to your calves behind you there, go right ahead and do that. See if you can really feel when you inhale the ribs expanding so the front ribs kind of press into your thighs. And on your exhales, just imagine the top of the head getting closer towards the ground. And then let your hands come on up to your hips. We're going to bend our knees, press into our feet, rise up, and inhale the arms all the way out and up. And on the exhale, let our hands come down together in front of our hearts. Let's inhale the hands up through the midline. Once they're up there, bend your elbows. Let the hands come just to the top of the back of your head. So your elbows are hugging in a little bit. And then see if your elbows can reach up a little bit higher. Now make sure you're not tucking your tailbone forward. Still feel the tailbone reaching down towards between your heels. Press your feet down into the floor. Imagine you're trying to make your mat wider with your feet. And then on your next inhale, come back to center. Rise those arms on back up. And as you exhale, fold forward, coming into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale lengthen out your spine. Exhale, right foot back into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Let your inhale bring you out to your plank, and your exhale will lower you down. Let your inhale bring you into your cobra of choice, and exhale back into down dog. Inhale. Exhale, right foot forward to lunge, and inhale. Exhale into standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising up, arms flowing all the way to the top. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward. Let your inhale lengthen out your spine. Exhale, left foot back to lunge. And inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog pose. Inhale your way out to plank. And on your exhale, lowering down. And inhaling into your cobra of choice. Exhale back to down dog. Inhale. Exhale, left foot forward to lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising up, arms flowing to the top. And on the exhale, we're going to fold forward again. Let your inhale lengthen your spine. We're going to come into down dog. You can jump, you can walk, bring yourself into your down dog, spread your fingers wide. Actually, come forward just enough to see your hands, okay? Think about your pointer fingers being parallel to each other. And then reach back with your sit bones. Come back to your full dog. Feel your elbows hugging towards each other. See if you can feel the breath coming into the back ribs. And from here, we're going to bring our left foot forward and come up for warrior one. Have your blocks handy here by the front of your mat. Bringing your shoulders on around square. Take your time. Get yourself into that stance, that length and width of stance where you feel okay in the back leg. So make sure you're grounded in that back foot. Shoulders are square. Zip up the belly. This right hip pointer will come around just as far as it can. And then let your arms come forward, and palms are forward, and you're really reaching down through the fingertips. Imagine there's a string attached to your sternum, and someone's drawing that string up a little bit on a diagonal line. Just a shallow diagonal line. Feel really easy in your shoulders. Reach out through your fingertips. And then bend your elbows. Bring your hands clasped behind your head here. Support your head. Let your head just gently press into your hands while you're supporting it. See if you can feel the breath now. Inhaling into the belly, into the ribs, all the way up into your chest. And then we'll start to rise the arms up. If you can interlace your fingers and send your pointer finger up, do. If you need to separate your hands, that's fine. Depends on your shoulders. Elbows can be a little bent. They can hug in a little bit towards your head. You can come into straighter arms. One more breath. Feel both feet in the floor here. And then we'll release our arms on down beside us. We're going to straighten this front knee out. Draw our right hip pointer around to square our hips to the front of the mat. And then start to come forward. Bring your hands behind you. Let them rest kind of on your low back. And let yourself just release as far as you want to go with your hands here. So don't force it. Without your hands, you may decide you only want to go an inch or two. You may want to get parallel to the floor. Feel your thighs engaging up. And then when you're ready, lower your hands on down, whatever surface you like to use, whether it's the blocks or the floor. And, of course, you can adjust your stance once you get your hands down. If you feel like you need that little adjustment there, go for it. And then just breathe. Let yourself release here. And now come up a little more parallel to the floor. Let your right hand stay either on a block or the floor and bring your left hand up to your left hip. And then start to rotate that left shoulder up so that your hand is flat there on your low back. The evenness is still there in the hips, the twist in the middle of the back. One more breath. And then we'll release and bring our hand on down. You can fold forward now over the leg if you choose to. If that feels like a relief, you can go ahead and bow over. And then we'll come on up more parallel to the floor. We're going to bend the front knee and find full lunge. So now you want to release that right heel to go directly behind your foot. We're going to add a twist of choice. Right hand can stay where it is, left hand to the left hip. You can rise that left arm up if you choose to. Or you can go ahead and come into twisted prayer, bringing that right elbow across towards your left knee if you'd like. One more breath. And then we'll come on back down. We're going to make our way back into downward facing dog pose from here. So once you're in dog, walk a little bit to the tops of your feet. Press into the tops of the toes. Just enjoy really releasing your feet here. Good. And then if you can, on your next inhale, come on out to a plank. Now you can go down through chaturanga, or you can come all the way into an up dog from there if you'd like. Or don't have to. You can just stay in your plank and then move back to dog when you're ready. So you're on your own for a little bit here. You want to do some vinyasas or kriyas. Go ahead and flow through a little bit. Take your time. You can always put your knees down. You know that. And then we're going to meet back in down dog. And from here, we'll bring that right foot forward. We're coming up for warrior one on the other side. So as you bring that right foot forward, again, get yourself really comfortable in the length of your stance. And the width. You may decide you want your feet a little wider. Let yourself feel that back foot fully grounded. And then we'll bring our arms on down. Let the palms come a little bit more forward. Reach down through the fingertips. And now, this string attached to the sternum. We're letting yourself feel that sense of somebody's pulling it just up maybe where the wall meets the ceiling. Let yourself enjoy Coming into your warrior one here. Breathing into the belly, into the ribs, up into the chest. And then we'll bend our elbows and go ahead and support your head. Clasp your hands. Rest your head or press even gently your head back into your hands. Might get even a little more lift at the base of the shoulder blades that way. And then when you're ready to extend the arms long, again, you can separate them. You can send your pointer finger up. Hug those elbows in a little bit. Enjoy opening through the front of that left hip. Left foot on the floor there, arches lifting up. And then we're going to look forward, release our arms on down, straighten this front knee out, draw the left hip pointer around, hands behind you, and then start to come on forward. Thighs are engaging up towards the hips. Again, you don't have to go very far at all. You can go as far as feels good to you before you put your hands down. Keep those thighs lifting up, really working in the legs here. And when you're ready to lower your hands down, you decide what kind of support you want, the floor, the blocks. Now, you can adjust your stance if it feels not quite right. If you feel not quite square, you can get shorter or longer, different stance if you need. Good. Full breath, thighs engaging upwards. And then keep your left hand either on block or the floor and bring your right hand up to your right hip and roll that shoulder up. Now, you can kind of put your palm down and tell if you're level. So remember, draw that right hip back a little bit. You're trying to keep your hips square. Revolve triangle. One more breath. And then bring the hand on back down. We're going to fold a little forward if we want to. So you can let yourself fold over that leg if it feels good. Just breathing, releasing. Let your head hang if that's okay with your back. Good. And then bring your hands back so that we can bend that front knee and find lunge. So the heel now is going to release directly behind your foot. Setting up for your twist. So again, right hand can come onto your right hip. You can rotate that shoulder up, or you can bring your left elbow across to your right knee. You can add the top arm if you choose. Good, and then we'll release and come on back and make our way back into our downward facing dog pose again. And again, let your body do what it needs. So if you like to walk, if you feel better to move around a little bit, let yourself put your knees down if you want. Vinyasas or kriyas if you choose. Remember, rest if you need. You can rest in dog too. And then we'll finish off. We'll meet back in down dog. And we're going to bring our left foot forward and come up for warrior two this time. And again, have your blocks handy in case you need them. Let your right arm come up, straight up overhead, over your shoulder here. And then go ahead, look down, bend your left knee, find that alignment. Think of that outer left hip dropping downward. Make sure your knee's not hiking inward, but you're really lined up at the center of the foot. Good. And then as you start to bring your gaze on forward, lower that back arm down, rise that left arm up, and come on into your warrior two. Really reaching out through your fingertips. Let your hands come lower than your shoulders for a second. Flex your hands a little bit. And then rise them back up and let yourself come back into reaching out through the fingertips. Feel the feet equal in the floor here. Nice. And then we'll bring our hands down, and we're going to straighten that front knee out and turn our legs to where our feet are more parallel. You're really wide here. Bring your arms straight on out from your shoulders a little bit higher. 5-pointed star. Soften the shoulders down. Reach out through the fingertips. Make sure you're not tucking your tailbone up under you. Feel your tailbone reaching down. Inner thighs releasing backward a little bit. Good. And then bring your arms on down. We're going to rotate our heels forward now, coming into a little goddess. So You can let your feet be a little closer if you need, a little farther if that's better. Bend both your knees. Let your arms come on out. Bend your elbows to 90 degrees. Feel that tailbone drop down. And we're going to bring our left arm on top of our right. Give ourselves a hug. And if you'd rather come into a full eagle wrap, go for it. And if your legs start to tell you, oh, too much, then kind of straighten them up a little bit. And you can always sink back down when you choose. Think about releasing that space between the shoulder blades on your back. One more breath. And then we'll unwind the arms. We're going to come on back into long legs. And from here, we're going to turn our feet parallel again, toes forward, and come on into a wide-legged forward bend. Grab your blocks if you need them. So if you'd like to bend a knee at a time, once you get there, go for it. Let one knee at a time just bend really easily, finding your inner thighs releasing. Feeling the feet on the floor now. Just try not to roll to the outsides or insides of your feet. And then from there, walk your hands out like you're doing a down dog. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use blocks. You can use blocks to do it, letting them come way out in front of you. Elbows hugging towards each other, heart releasing down towards the ground a little bit. And then walk the hands on back. And you get where you're comfortable. If you feel like you want to stack your blocks up or bring your forearms or your head onto blocks there, do. If it's good for you to bring your hands back more to between your feet, letting the top of the head release towards the ground. It is all up to you and your back, your hips. But just release now into your breaths. Full, deep breaths here. Good. And then from here, we're going to walk our hands out. We're going to walk back to lunge. Bring your blocks with you. All right, so coming on back around into your lunge, and then we're going to bring our blocks forward, highest height, so they're out there beyond, your arms are long, and that way you can just reach up into, coming into a little half moon. So as you come onto your left leg, right toes can turn down into warrior 3 for a couple of breaths, and then we'll start to open those toes a little bit away from the floor. Now, how far you go with this half moon is up to you. Keep the toes down if you need. Stay in your warrior 3 if that's better for your hips. Or you can open up, toes away from the floor, shifting your weight to your left hand if you want. Bringing that right arm up, hand to the hip, or reaching up through a long arm if you choose. You know, it's not necessary to do the full balance. You can keep your hands down, still open your hip here. Just play. Keep your gaze down if that's better for you, between your blocks there. Totally up to you. You can bring your gaze up away from the floor. We're going to come on back down with the hands, and we're going to step back now into lunge. So take your time, bring yourself on back into lunge, and then we'll come on back into down dog. Once you're in down dog, bring your feet a little closer together. Lift your left leg up in the air behind you, and bend the left knee and open the hip. You may want to look under your left arm. Let yourself press back out of your hands, opening up here. You can even pull the foot in, the heel in more towards your buttocks if that feels good. And then we'll straighten that leg out long, and then turn the toes down, square the hips, bring the foot on down, and you can decide if you want to do a vinyasa or a kriya from here. So if you choose, you can. You can put your knees down if you'd rather. And then we'll meet back in down dog. Take your time there. Let yourself breathe. Good. We're going to bring the right foot forward this time. We're coming up for warrior 2. So remember, line those heels up. Bring that left arm up overhead. Go ahead and look down at your right knee. Line up. Remember, make sure that knee's not hiking inward. If it helps you to lift your right heel up, you can. That really almost forces you to drop that outer right hip and line up the knee there. And then when you're ready, starting to rise that right arm up, left arm floats on back. Look out over the top of the right hand. Feel the feet in the floor. Lower the hands a little bit. Flex the hands. Press into the heels of the hands for a second. And then just come back into palms facing down, rising back into your warrior two arms. Feet pressing gently away from each other. Feel that energy all the way through the body here. Imagine yourself standing in a big circle. And you're reaching the extremities all the way out towards the edge of the circle here. One more breath. And then we'll bring the hands down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel so that we come into arms out a little higher than your shoulders with your hands. 5-pointed star, reaching out through the extremities again. And so feel that sense again. You don't want to tuck your tailbone forward. Feel the tailbone reaching down. Good. And then lower the arms on down. We're going to turn our heels forward for a little goddess, remember. So you may have to adjust your stance as you bend your knees. Knees come out over the center of the feet. Arms come up so that you bend your elbows to 90 degrees. And you can decide, right arm on top this time. Hugging, if you'd rather. Coming into a half or full eagle wrap, if that feels good for you. Breathing into between the shoulder blades on your back. Enjoying that sense of being equal between your legs, up into your hips, tailbone dropping down. Good. And then we'll unfold the arms on down beside us. Come on up to turn your toes more forward, parallel your feet again. And then we'll come on forward into our wide-legged forward bend. And once you get there, let your knees bend one at a time again. Find those inner thighs. Release a little bit side to side. And then walk over towards the right, maybe all the way to your right foot. That depends on you. Letting your breath be very easy there, deep and full. And then come on back through center, and we'll go to the left. And then come on back into center. Let both your knees bend just a little bit. And you can decide whether walking the hands back between your feet or even behind you sounds like a good idea for you. Don't do it. If you need to stay forward with your hands. And then just go to your breath. Get to that place where you can feel so easy in the way you're standing. Yes, you're engaged because you're standing up, but you're letting go through the upper body. So let your face soften. Let go of your jaw. Imagine that your eyes are kind of melting back into their sockets. Good. One more breath. And then we're going to walk our hands back out. We are going to use our blocks again to walk on back into that lunge. So once you get into your lunge, reach your blocks forward, way out there if you can. And then just shift your weight all the way up onto that right leg. Let your toes face down for a minute. There's your warrior three. And if you're able to go ahead and open that hip, turn the toes away from the floor. Remember, your heel is directly behind your sitting bone. Now, you can decide if you feel like balancing today. Do you feel like bringing your left hand up to your hip or stretching that arm up? Does it feel better to keep both hands down? Just be where you can, coming into opening the hip in your half moon, whether you're fully into both hands up or not, doesn't matter. And then we're going to release, hand back down, turn the toes down. We're going to come back into our lunge. And then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. From here, feet a little closer together, right leg up in the air, bend the knee, and then let that knee reach up towards where the wall meets the ceiling behind you. You can look under your right arm. You can pull the heel in if you want, towards your buttocks if that feels good. And then stretch the leg long, turn the toes down, square the hips, and come on down, and you can decide if you want to come on through into a back bend or not. So take your time. Last vinyasas or kriyas if you're doing any. And then we'll meet back in down dog. Let's separate our feet wider on the mat. Walk our hands back. Let yourself come to your elbows, resting above your knees in a kind of squat here. And just be mindful. Really let the elbows support you so you can reach back through your tailbone. Let it feel good. And then bring your hands to your thighs. Press your hands into your thighs to rise up. Walk the feet up under you, coming into mountain pose now. Get your feet hips distance apart and parallel. Bring your hands behind you for a second. And let your right hand encircle your left wrist. So the elbows are soft. Just come to a place where that feels okay for your shoulders. There's no right or wrong. And then just breathe. Let yourself allow the breath to get the body feeling a little more balanced after all we've just done so far. And you feel the beating of your heart. Feel the breath quieting down. And then we'll release our arms on down beside us. Shake out just a little bit. Good. We're going to bring our mats all the way into a wall here in the studio. So if you're at home and you have a wall, if not, no worries. You can practice this little bit of what we're going to do without a wall, and it'll be fine. So we're going to come down with our feet back, if you have a wall, back towards the wall, and let yourself come on into a child's pose to release your hips here for a little bit more. So coming into releasing back, whether you stay a little forward on your forearms or you're okay to shift your hips all the way back towards your heels is up to you. Arms can stay overhead, or you can bring the arms back alongside your legs, turning the palms up. Nice, easy breaths. Good. And then reach your arms overhead. Now, if you know, coming up into a down dog with your heels up the wall doesn't feel good for your wrists, and you'd rather go right onto your forearms, do it, all right? Especially those of you here who know. So otherwise, you come up onto either hands and knees or be on your forearms, and then come on back to your heels up the wall and let yourself hug your elbows towards each other. Really release back. Really feel like you're reaching equally back towards the wall with each sitting bone. Now, you can decide whether from here you want to rise a foot up the wall or not. You can, you don't have to. So if you want to come up into a three-legged dog, 1 foot up the wall, you can. Or same thing if you're in dolphin. And then we can switch and go to the other leg. And then if you've done those, bring yourself down with your foot, and we're going to lower the knees down. Take a little rest, whether you shift to your pose of a child or maybe you want to sit up and get yourself, again, with your head above your heart. That's up to you. You can do more or you can do less. You can sit here and relax or stay in your child's pose. Or if you want to do another little bit of a go, you can, again, either be on your hands or your forearms. You may at one point want to walk both feet up the wall, right? So if you do, you can kind of come into a little bit more if you want to have both feet up, maybe lifting one leg up off the wall from there. So play with where you want to be. And of course, rest if you need to rest. Good. Good. And when you rest, you can either be up sitting or you can be in child's pose. Good. And if your wrists bother you, take it easy. Let your wrists move around a little bit once you're done. You can always encircle a wrist and open and close your hands into fists, or you can rotate around through the hands, the wrists, shake them out. And let's come on down onto our bellies on the floor. So everybody here can come on down and release. Couple of breaths, just let your forehead rest on your hands and breathe. And then just float your legs and your head up a little bit. Leave your hands just resting here on the floor. Let yourself just feel a little ease here, a little locus, not huge. And then come on down and let's roll onto our left side. So let yourself roll to your left side. Stretch your left arm out. Go ahead and rest your head on your arm if you can. If this is not comfortable for your shoulder, get a blanket or a block and put it under your head. And bring this arm down, this underarm down, okay? And then act like you're standing up. You're in mountain pose. Feet are right under your hips. If you're able to release your top hand off the floor, you can put your right hand on your hip. And then just let that right leg rise up about a foot or 18 inches and then come back down. Little low leg lifts, pressing into the outside edge of that left foot on the floor. Inhaling as the leg rises up, exhaling as it comes back down. So just let yourself inhale up and exhale down a couple more times, really feeling the core strength of the body here. What really helps stabilize is pressing into the outside edge of that big toe mound there on the floor. Finish off. We're going to bend that right knee and come in with that right foot like you're doing tree pose here on your side. So you can let the foot come under the inner calf. It can come up above and the inside of your thigh. Imagine really here that you're standing in tree pose. You might even want to stretch both arms overhead. If that feels good, you can do that and let yourself really enjoy that extension. And now, bring your right hand back to draw your right knee in towards your right shoulder if you can. And you can extend that right leg up long into Anantasana, either holding behind the leg or behind the calf or behind the thigh, or you can reach up if you'd like and think of getting hold of your big toe or your foot. Rotate that right heel forward, press into the outside edge of that left foot there. Let the hip open up here and release. You don't have to go all the way with the long leg. You can just be with your knee bent. And then come on back like you're doing tree pose. And then from here, we're going to roll to our belly. Let that right leg come out onto the floor beside you with the knee bent. And go ahead and rest your forehead on your hands. Now, this right knee is just out beside you on the floor. And you're just letting it release here. Breathing into your low back. Good. And then we're going to come on back into center. Release the arms down alongside you now. Your legs are down long underneath you. And on your inhale, float up into a locust pose. Reaching back towards the wall behind you, fingertips and toes. Take your time. Enjoy. It doesn't have to be high. Good. And then we'll release down. We're going to roll onto our right side. Stretch the right arm long. And as you do, come onto your side. Take care. Get your feet right under you. Remember, it's like you're standing in mountain pose. Flex through both the feet. You can put your left hand on your hip or not. Press into the outside edge of the right foot there on the floor. And then those leg lifts are very low. It's not about height. It's about control. So you're staying parallel with your feet, really flexing your feet. Inhaling the leg up. exhaling back down. Slow and controlled, and not big. It's not for stretching your leg. It's for really controlling here through the middle of the body there. And then after a couple more, which is probably about enough, it'll start to talk to you if it hasn't already. Come on back, bend that left knee, bring the foot up like you're doing tree pose again. Just if you need to put your left hand on the floor, do it. Enjoy that hip releasing there. And now all the rest of this is up to you, whether you want to use your left hand to draw the left knee in towards your shoulder or extend the left leg up long or not. That is up to you. If you have the leg long, rotate that heel forward. Let yourself be where you can there. Good. Remember, you want to try to get that feeling of pressing into the outside edge of the right toes on the floor. That will stabilize you. One more breath. And now come back in like you're doing tree if you're not already. And we're going to roll to our bellies. And again, that knee just kind of comes all the way out onto the floor beside you. And it's a big release just to let yourself breathe here. Just breathing into the low back. Let the hip release after all that. Good. One more breath. And then bring the legs back underneath you again. And let's bring our hands down alongside us, right at the upper chest. And then from here, let yourself rise up and back towards a child's pose. Don't come all the way. Just shift back a little bit. So you're out of your wrist. You're not really on your hands and knees. And then see if you can just shift forward, maybe coming towards a cobra pose, letting the hips come down a little more, chest come forward, elbows hug in towards your ribs. So you can shift back out of that and let yourself take a breath there. And then maybe you can come again. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it, right? If you're like, no, that's not going to work for my wrist, you can also come through and come into your Sphinx, right? Shift back again with your hips, and then come back again into that Sphinx pose, right? So, you just adapt how your body wants to. And then once you finish off the one you're on, we're going to shift back towards pose of a child. And then we're going to let ourselves bring our hands by our knees and come on around with our legs so that we stretch our legs on out in front of us. Good. Reach out, move through your feet and your ankles a little bit. You can lean back if you need to. Let the feet come in and out, in and out. Good. And then bring the feet towards the front corners of your mat. And let your feet flex, and then just start to ease your way forward. Now, you may decide you just want to go a little bit, coming forward with that long back. If you're able to get your toes, and that feels really good to you, you can reach for your feet. You can go ahead and fold your head forward if that's okay for your back. Don't add any kind of undue pressure to your back. So let it be a release. Good. One more breath. And then we'll come on back up. Bring your legs on a little more in front of you. And now keep your left leg long. Remember, I'm not going to mirror in here, but bring your right leg in either to that figure 4 where you cross your ankle above or below your knee. Or some of you may want to scoot this left leg a little more to the midline and then cross over where your thighs are on top of each other, where you have your knees kind of stacked up. That's not for everybody, that half cow face. That's up to you. Now for here, just for a second, let yourself sit up nice and tall. And now we're going to bring our left arm up and overhead and then bend the elbow. Let the hand come down wherever it'll choose to come. Sit up tall as you bring your right hand behind you and let your right hand face palm outward. You can have your hands way apart. You may decide you want to work your hands towards each other there on your back. That is up to you. And then the other thing that's up to you is if you want to ease it forward just a little tiny bit. This is really, really something in the shoulders. Don't come forward if it's too much. And then we'll come back up. If we were forward, we're going to release our arms down, take an inhale. On the exhale, we're going to twist to our right. Bring your right hand behind you. Bring your left hand either to your right knee, or you can just extend to let the arm rest on the outside of the leg there. And lengthen up through the crown of the head. So if you need to, on your inhales, come back out of the twist a little bit, do. And then sometimes on an exhale, your body just naturally wants to go a little deeper into a twist, not forcing it. Try not to force it with your arms. Let the arms just be there to help you a little bit, but not to force your twist. One more breath. And then use your belly to bring you back on around into center. Lean back for just a second. So you can be on flat hands or onto your fingertips. Open your chest a little bit here. And then we're going to come on back so we can uncross. We're going to do the other leg. Right leg comes long, left leg comes in. You can do figure 4. Ankle can be above or below your knee. You can cross over if you choose, letting yourself get the thighs more over, or maybe you're kind of halfway, that's fine. So you just got to go where your hips allow you to be. And then we'll rise the right arm all the way out and up and bend the elbow. Let yourself look forward so you take this rounding out of the upper back. Keep that length up through the top of your head. Left hand behind you, palm faces outward. It can stay really low. That's a lot right there. Bringing the hands closer together is up to you. You can reach your hands closer towards each other. If you can reach them, you can let them hold each other. And then again, coming forward a little bit if it's in your body to do that, right? So don't force it at all. Let it be easy. Feel that right heel on the ground a little bit. And then we're going to rise on back up to sitting. And we're going to release our arms on down beside us. And inhale here at the top. On the exhale, twisting to your left. Left hand comes behind you. Right hand again can rest on your knee or go across with your arm. And then just be easy. Again, if inhaling, coming back out of that twist a little bit feels good. And then on the exhale, if perhaps it feels good to deepen your twist a little bit, do. So be with your breaths. One more nice full breath. And when you come back out of it, use your belly to bring you back. Hands are going to come behind you. Again, you can be on fingertips or you can walk back and lean onto your hands if you choose to. But open through the chest here. Let it feel really good to open up through the chest. And then we'll come on back up. Let's uncross and bring your feet again towards the outside edges of your mat and let the feet do little windshield wiper blades. In and out, in and out, and in and out. And then go side to side, and side to side, and side to side. Good. And then we're going to come on down onto our backs on the floor. So take your time. Come on down. Once you get in onto your back on the floor, bring your knees on into your chest. Let yourself send your feet up for a bit of a happy baby pose. And feet can come up, knees can slide towards the outside edges of the rib cage. You can reach your hands up to get your feet, or you can hold on to the back of your thighs. And if rolling side to side is the biggest relief ever, go for it. Good. And then come on back into center. Bring your knees in closer in towards your chest now. And then when you inhale, have your right hand on your right knee, your left hand on your left knee. When you inhale, let the knees come away from you. Feel how the back comes back, low back off the floor. And when you exhale, draw your knees back in towards you so you feel that flatness of the back on the floor again, the low back. So when you inhale, the knees come away. And when you exhale, the knees come back in. So just a couple more. Inhaling, the knees away. Exhaling, letting that back release. And then finish off. Let your feet come down to the floor. Separate your feet wider, like they come maybe all the way to the outside edges of your mat. So you kind of adjust yourself where you're pretty centered if you can in your mat. And then just on your own timing, let the knees come from one side to the other. Now, if you feel like bringing your knees to the right and staying there, you can always lift your right foot up and place it up above your knee on the outside of your thigh there and just hang out there and give yourself a little extra release in this twist at the front of your hip. So that's up to you. You don't have to do those lifting the feet up. You can just let your knees go side to side at your own pace. If your knees go to the left foot picks up and goes to the outside right above your right knee, and you can hang out there. So actually, start to listen to your own body. There may be something else entirely that sounds good to you. If some pelvic tilts or a little bit of bridge pose or even rolling bridge, rolling up through the spine, if that sounds like a good idea, anything you want to do, let your body go for it. It doesn't have to be any particular pose. It can be any kind of movement that you'd like. Any stretch. Or perhaps really all you're ready to do is to try to start to get comfortable for Shavasana, and that is fine too. So really take your time. If you need to ease into another form of a twist, or you need to do a bridge pose or a supported bridge, let yourself do that. And take your time. If you're at home, you're going to want to start to gather things when you're ready so that you can be comfortable for Shavasana. If you're at the studio here, I would love to bring you anything that would help. Blankets, bolsters, wave at me. Want a bolster? So remember, if you're at home and you lie down and you feel like your chin lifts up and shortens the back of your neck, you're welcome. You can put a little bit of a blanket underneath your head. It doesn't need to be a giant pillow. You want to let yourself just feel that support of releasing the back of your neck and your throat. Another thing you can do is turn and lie with your legs up the wall. So just be mindful. If you feel like you're settling in, but you're not quite comfortable, just adjust your arms and legs a little bit. Sometimes how you have your arms and legs makes a really big difference in whether you can get more released into your shoulders and your hips. But just be now with your breaths. Accepting your breaths in and out. Watching the breaths like you would waves if you were at the ocean. Giving your mind and your body these few minutes to find those little quiet places where you can benefit from all we just did. Just by allowing yourself to completely and fully relax. gradually now, let yourself come back to physically feeling the ground underneath you, supporting you again. Allowing your breath to gradually come in and go out more deeply, more fully. And when you're ready to start to move, let your extremities lead you. Your fingers, your toes wiggling, maybe coming on into hands, feet, maybe wrists, ankles need to move a little bit, circling. And when you're ready to get those arms and legs moving, if you need to stretch, do. If you need to bring your knees up and in to release your back, by all means, just follow whatever your body needs to do to physically come back into moving again. And you know you're welcome to roll to either side. If you're comfortable to roll onto your right or your left side, you can come into a soft fetal position there on your side. And when you do feel okay to rise up to sitting, take your time. Let your eyes stay closed if you can, and get comfortable in the way that you're sitting. You know, you might want to stretch your legs out or cross your legs or use support underneath your knees or sit on a blanket. Just take your time, lengthen up, let your shoulders release down. Coming back now to watching your breath in and out. And see if you can imagine breathing equally in and out through both sides of your nose again. And on your next exhale, bring your hands gently to meet there in front of your chest, in front of your own heart. And wishing each one of you a very joyful day. Namaste. Happy Tuesday, everybody.